Sorry, little so Canadian. Started out that way. Sorry, a little late start today. Hi, everybody. What's going on out there? What's going on? Who we got here? We got Steven and the Muji Fuji and Mark and another Steven and Mark, or maybe it's the same Steven and the same Mark. What's happening, everybody? 11:30, 11:35, whatever works. Yeah, sorry. I know. It's a little late today. I turned on the computer to get set up, and I was, I got to figure out how to check the box that says that you don't open every application the next time you open your computer that was open the last time. You know what I mean? Because like sometimes my computer opens up and it wants to pull up absolutely everything. I know there's an easy way to shut that off. I just got to go into System Press to do that. But anyway, I did that, and then the whole thing froze. And I was like, okay. And I was waiting for a minute, and then it wouldn't do anything. And then like, okay, let's restart. So I had that happen. Yeah, I'm that much of an idiot. I have things like that happen sometimes where I don't know, like with the computer, exactly what I'm doing. I just know how to make it work to do what I do. Good enough. That's true. Jerome's asking, what is Shimmer? And you're getting more specific about it. Reverb into pitch shift up or pitch shift into reverb. I assume it takes some of the dry signal and adds reverb to it. And then also there's a pitch shift algorithm or whatever, and it shifts it up an octave, gives you that like POG style or whatever, right? It gives you an octave up and then throws that into the reverb, probably separately, and that's what Shimmer is. Often used, often abused, but can be effective. I like it if it's real subtle. And you do it for ambient stuff, and you still like in the mix, you don't really hear it, but like when you solo it out into the mix, you hear it, and then it's doing something, sort of to add a little thing. It can be cool. Yeah. Lauren was saying that he was watching a Johnny Highland demo for a new pedal board. There's 2 magnetic rails that hold pedal mounts. Plug mount into pedal power port. It sounds interesting. I wonder, is it good for like road? Does it seem like it would be like, could you put it through TSA and it would throw it and the things would stick? Guitars for your project is saying, do you have any issues reformatting your hard drive of your Mac for Luna? That was confusing. So Luna is the DAW, or, they call it a recording system for Universal Audio. And they say that your drive has to be formatted a certain way. I realized that mine already was. That they kind of make a big deal about that, but it's like I didn't have to do anything. I thought I did, and then I did it. So I don't know if that's helpful. I can't remember exactly what the formats are and stuff, but I was all stressing about it. And then I realized it's like, no, I'm good. So I know that's not very helpful, but if you've got a recent Mac and you've used other DAWs, and you should be fine. But I remember what you're talking about when I was installing it and stuff and getting it set up. It's like, oh, I have to format my hard drive for this certain. And then I realized that I didn't. Yeah. Simon Legg is in Europe, and he says he's broadly in Europe, as I always say. Europe broadly, and he's saying, just seeing your tribute to Eddie Van Halen for a classic rock show on YouTube, that was cool. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I sent them a little video to use playing Spanish Fly, which I'd never really learned, and it's fascinating. Like all of Eddie Van Halen's parts, rhythm parts, lead parts. I love learning Eddie Van Halen stuff, and it makes me feel young again. I don't know how else to describe it, but the tackling it and then getting it under my fingers, which is always challenging. I looked for some online tutorials and I couldn't find anything that I thought was, especially for the fast picking part in the middle. And then I just put it in transcribe and old school slowed it down and figured out what was going on. And it was a really good feeling to go, I know what he's doing. I know exactly what's happening in this part, because I'd never been able to quite get it. But anyway, there's a video of it sort of up on YouTube now. And I got it. I think I got it pretty close. I did a take of it, and then I was like, I think that was pretty good. And I listened back, and I'm like, you know what? It's good. I'm just going to leave it. And And I thought I could probably do this tomorrow, the next day, go back and play it again, and maybe even get it even more. And then I thought, why? It's good. It's so this isn't the easiest thing in the world to play. It's demanding. It's hard for sure. Bent Tom is saying hi to Pariah Pickups. That's true. They sent me, Pariah Pickups. What's true? They sent me some pickups to use for the. I've got another super chat I got to get to there, by the way, and I'll do that in a second. They sent me some pickups to use in this new pickup video where we're going to do a little Eddie Van Halen pickup shootout. Why not hear what pickups sound best for that tone, or maybe just good in general? But they sent us these two humbuckers. I believe there's a 14 or so K Alnico 2 situation, probably, similar to the sort of that's what the Frankenstein pickup is, or a custom. And then there's also a 9K or close to 9K Alnico 2, similar to probably what Duncan would call an EVH. And Duncan, I've got a bunch of pickups. Oh, I've got 3 here from them. Let's talk about it. That they sent along for the video. So there's a custom, kind of their version of a super distortion, really. 13 point whatever K ceramic magnet. Here's a custom. So that's a 14 point something K Alnico 2. And a 59, which I thought, the good old 59. Of course, that's 8 point something K, I think, Alnico 5. So just listening to pickups. And there'll be a bunch more that, like, on my floor there that looks odd. Slightly concerning. Looks like a coffee bean. Better not be like a rat pellet or something. What the hell is that? I just picked it up with my hand, though. So there's that. I don't have rats here. There wouldn't only be one either, would there? If it was rats, there wouldn't only be one. I think it's some sort of errant granola situation or something. Arthur Gonzalez is up there in the super chat. And he says, there's a little something for the coffee funds. Thanks, brother. I went to, yesterday, speaking of coffee, I hope this is interesting. My coffee grinder blew up. I was grinding coffee in the morning yesterday, and it started making this incredible noise that just sounded like really problematic. And I thought, not today. You are going to work. I'm getting a cup of coffee out of you today. And I pushed the grinder down. It was like freaking out. And then one of the blades just blew right off. And it was like, okay, there must have been something in there that got stuck and screwed it up. But anyway, I've had that coffee grinder for like 15 years. It was probably time to get another one anyway. And of course, it's like crazy in LA right now with coronavirus and all that. And it's the weekend before Christmas. And I thought, where the hell am I going to go and buy one of these things where it's not going to be lineups to get in because of, social distancing and stuff like that. And where I want to be in there anyway, because I generally try and stay away from people these days. So I went to Williams-Sonoma, and I did have to stand in line, but only about 5 people deep in order to get in there. And I got in, and they had one coffee grinder left, and it was a Cuisinart coffee grinder that was $70. That was, it's got a touch screen with all this, like, you set the amount of cups that you want, and then it's like, you set the grind. There's like 20 different levels of grind from fine to coarse, and you put all the beans in. It just does it automatically. Sold. I'll take that one. My previous coffee grinder was probably like $10. So this is just Keurig. This is crap that I drink here. I got to do something about that. I got to get a better coffee maker here, but it's awful. It sucks because at home I have a couple good cups before I get here, and then I come here and I have that, and it just is like dirt. But we'll work on that. So maybe Arthur, this is towards the coffee fund. Maybe I should be assembling should buy a proper coffee maker here for the. I deserve it, don't I? I hope that any of that was interesting. But I have this incredible coffee maker now. I mean, grinder. Yeah, it's really something. Greetings from Prince Edward Island, says Michael. What's up, man? I've only been there once. Only made it out there once, but I did get all the way across Canada once. In February of 2011 or 2012, I did 2011, I think, did a cross Canada tour, February in Canada. That's the worst, with Melissa Etheridge. And but we had so much fun. It was amazing. We started in one date at a casino kind of venue south of, like around Spokane, Washington somewhere. Went up to Vancouver, played there, and then went all the way across Canada, all the way to St. John's. And I mean, we went to the, you know, one end to the other as far as you can go. And that was really cool. I always remember, you know, it was cold as hell. I remember it was -20, and I remember the bus bay door was broken, and I remember holding it up so that other people could get bags out, and it was -20 in my hometown in Edmonton at the Westin Hotel there, I remember. And I remember holding that bay up for like 30 seconds and feeling my hands were going to fall off. Like, guys, I need my hands because I got to be able to play guitar tomorrow. So it was like so friggin' cold. I didn't have any gloves. But anyway, a great memories of that tour. And that was when I went to Prince Edward Island. I think that was the time I got there. I know I've been there once, and I'm pretty sure that was it. Anyway, looks like your amps are multiplying, says Tellyman. Yeah, I've got a lot in here right now for amps. I mean, it's the, I don't know if I have extra. You know, I got a couple earlier this year, like the Germino, and how do you do this? Germino and the Soldano over there. I've been enjoying using my divided by 13 here, which is an AC30 style amp, but boy, does it ever sound good. And, you know, I've had it forever. I think I've mentioned this before in here, but I've had it since 2007, I think. And I didn't use it for a long time, and now I'm really enjoying it. It sounds great. So that for AC30, you know, I run it into the aux for AC30 sounds because I don't have a mic'd up 212 with blues in the other room. I've got my one, you know, the Marshall 412, but I don't, you know, if you're going to go, I don't know, how do you guys feel about this? If you're going to go AC30, it's like, I sort of feel like running it into greenbacks or a closed cabinet is like, it can sound great. But if I think AC30, I don't go 412 greenbacks. It's like, no. I want the whole thing. I want the sound of the, you know, it's such a different thing. And the aux, I got to say, the 212 Vox style cabinet in it is great. It's one of the sounds that I was sold, you know, on it when I tried it. I was like, this is a terrific AC30 sound, running an EL84 amp into that cabinet and not having to deal with mics and stuff. It was really cool. If I had a great cabinet in the other room with blues mic'd up and all the stuff, I might be like, this edges it out or something. But you know what? I don't. And to my ears, it sounds fantastic. So I don't know. Something else I was going to mention, interesting things that are happening, that quad Cortex thing. So I got one for a demo, and for a technical reason, because you know, it's coming out soon, but they asked me to actually send it back because they wanted to make an update or something to it. So I did that. But while I had it here, so I tried it, and my honest feel was the amps and stuff that are in it, I was kind of like, I don't know, you know. And then I tried doing the profiling thing, which is they call it captures. Because, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about, this neural DSP thing. It's supposed to be the latest and greatest of modelers. And so the capture thing, pretty amazing. My honest feel. It was pretty incredible. Sounded, I mean, it's pretty damn good. And here's the thing that's really interesting about that thing is that it's got a touch screen on it, and the touch screen, when you're doing something like the capture, walks you through how to hook up everything. Because, you know, if you're going to do that, it's like, oh, you need to plug this in here and plug the return from the mic pre in here. And the thing actually has mic pre's in it, which is really interesting. You can plug a microphone right into it and use it for the microphone. It's got combo jacks and 2 mic pre's. I took a line out of my BA Neve style pre into it to do the capture stuff. And I also made some direct profiles. Tried doing, you know, direct. I did a PT100 one, and just to try it and see how close it was. I was pretty knocked out. And but one of the main things was the walking you through how to hook it up on. I didn't need the manual. It's like the manual's built in, and when you do something on it, it shows you how to do it. And I thought, that's brilliant. That is really a well done, well thought out, you know, step 1, hook this up here. Step 2, hook it, okay, plug it in. Step 3, and it's showing you on this great, because it's got a great big touch screen. And then you get it all done. It says, okay, test your levels or whatever. And there's an auto set level thing. Then you play guitar into it and it listens to the sound and stuff. And then you push go and it makes all those crazy sounds that you would expect it would make. And I'm slightly concerned about, if you've got low power amps with low power speakers and you're cranking them up. It's like, I hope that's okay. Or I mean, high power, even sort of high power amps with low power, like something like an AC30. It's like, ooh, because it makes all that through the through the amp. But anyways, pretty impressed with the result, and then the effects sound great. So the reverbs and stuff. So it's really pretty next level. It's so small, and I don't know. I was like, oh, I think I like this thing. And how my love hate with modelers or whatever. Basically love, but I'm also such a tube amp guy. But I was pretty impressed, I have to say. I was talking with Rabia about it as well, and he sort of felt, we were just texting back and forth, and he was saying sort of feel the same way. He's not a modeler guy per se, but he's like, it's pretty impressive, like the capture thing and stuff. So anyway, that's that. So I don't have it here now, but I'll have it probably pretty soon again. And then I'm supposed to do a video for sometime in January. Yep. Okay. Have you tried the Fralin noiseless system with the inductor plate? No, I haven't. I didn't know they had a noiseless, do they? So it's probably similar to the other. What's the one that Sur used to use? They're noiseless, and then they developed their own. But they used to use that one, and I can't remember the name of it now. Illich. That's it. It came to me. Sounds like the Fralin system's pretty similar to that. I haven't tried it, but that system worked great if it's similar. Illich system always. It's actually the system that I have in my green Sur, and works good. Jonathan's there in the top chat, and he says, "Love your work. What's the best way to set up amps for touch dynamics with gain boxes? Clean until dig in kind of thing." I would say set the gain on the low side and use the boost, like on a tube screamer, it's the standard boost up the level and set the gain lower. The more you turn up the gain, it's going to just sort of put more of that, what can be slightly artificial sounding IC based or whatever distortion into the signal. But if you run less of that and more boost out of it, it tends to sound a little more like, because now you're hitting the front end of the amp, and what you're actually doing is boosting the tube in the amp, and now you're integrating that kind of high voltage element of your amp's preamp more into the sound than you are that sort of low voltage IC thing. Does that make sense? So nailing the front end of the amp with level and adding a little bit of grind, a little bit of the phony grind from the pedal. I say phony because it's not tube, but you know what I mean. Generally, it's not tube unless it's a tube pedal. And then it tends to respond to your guitar volume, because if you roll your guitar volume down, you got to imagine at some point it's going to go below the threshold of where it was boosting, and now you're going to get kind of like the pedal isn't hitting the amp as hard. Does that make sense? But if you turn up the gain on a pedal, or overdrive, distortion, whatever, and it's distorting the signal, you're going to roll down the volume of your guitar, and there's still going to be that element of that kind of IC gain in there more. Does that make sense? So try higher level and lower drive or gain or whatever they call it, the distortion settings on the pedal, higher volume setting. Somebody's saying, do you like it better than the Kemper, says Alex. Well, I don't feel like I've had enough time with it. And keep in mind that the Kemper that I have is an old one, the little lunchbox style one. I'm not really familiar with what's been going on with Kemper as far as the floor-based one and stuff, and how, I have the first gen kind of one, right? So, but I will say the simplicity of it is, and the sound was good. I made a couple patches that I wanted to play. I'll put it that way. I was sitting there and I was like, I didn't want to go home, and I was like, oh, I'm aware. I try and be cognizant of that stuff because I realize I'm having fun with gear and stuff, but then I'm also trying it to make demos, and so I was like, I really don't want to actually turn this off and go home right now. And if I feel that way, many times I plug things in, I try them, I'm like, yeah, that's a good sound or whatever. But I'm like, it's like with anything, there's a lot of shit here. You know what I mean? It's like, there's a lot of stuff. And I have the luxury And it's not lost on me that it's really cool, but I have the luxury of a lot of those options. And it's like, you know what I mean? And so it's like to get excited and feel like, oh yeah, I want to play with this. Like this is really is for me. I'm like, if I feel that way about it, that's I guess fairly profound, you know? So I'd want to try it in all the other different ways too, like using it as just an effects for cable and all that stuff and try all that stuff and see. But I was pretty impressed. I mean, they've obviously put a lot of thought into it, and you know, it seems like a great tool. So yeah. Expensive, says Stealth Parrot. You know, I'm not sure what it's going to go for. I don't know. Does somebody know? Is it like $1,600 or something? I can't remember exactly. I could be way off on that. I thought that just came to my mind. Like maybe I saw that figure somewhere that's what it's going to be, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me. Yeah. Did you try the capture for any analog drives, says Chad? No, I didn't, but I did do a head. So I did, which will be kind of the same thing. Like, you know, profiling the front end of your amp, or sorry, not the front end, your entire amp. So I used the load box to load out and go into it. And so you've only got the amp sound in there. And then I took that and ran it into my power station to compare to the sound of my PT100, which was also running into the power station because it's, you know, I'm using it as a load here and reamp to. The power station is quite transparent. It's got that nice tube power amp in it. So I tried it, you know, and I was pretty impressed with that. I only did one of those, and then now that I think about it, and then I did some direct. That was the one direct one I did. Excuse me, and then I did a bunch of with captures, you know, because I figured that would be the way most people would use it, but maybe not. I don't know. So anyways, I guess your question is, will it do that stuff? And I would say, yeah, if it can do an amp, then it can definitely do a pedal pretty close, you know. Brian says, I heard you can run multiple instruments and gig all at once. Yeah, well, I think it's got 4 paths in it, maybe. So I think you could do at least a couple paths, like maybe that whole thing where like you got 2 guitar players using it, you know, that's possible, I think. Yeah. It's got a lot of power, so it's, you know, you can do or you can do sophisticated double amp or even more, a triple amp. I think maybe even 4 at a time chains. Yeah, close to same price as Helix Floor, says Nimble Fred. Yeah, probably pretty close, I would say. You know, I guess the Helix Floor has expression pedal and a few other things that this one maybe doesn't, but you can add expression pedals to it, and it's got features of its own. It's definitely, it's pretty cool. I'll just say that until I get it, and without comparing them at all, because I know it's going to get into the which one should I get thing, you know. Yeah. Teemit says he recently saw a video of Edward visiting Jason Becker. It was kind of touching, wasn't it? Great. It's I was talking about it on the show last week, but I was saying that video was really like what he was like in person. So they could just fly on the wall. You're getting a great. That's the way he conversing and everything is. That's Eddie Van Halen, you know, like with his guard down, kind of, and just talking and you know. And I love the playing in it. The Me Wise Magic and Can't Get This Stuff No More, where he's just sitting there jamming and playing. Because, you know, those were the new tunes then. It was 96 when he filmed that video, and those were the songs that they were coming out with on the greatest hits with Dave singing and stuff. And which I really like those songs. In a way, to me, those, well, I don't want to say, because I mean, I like much of what I heard later, but as far as stuff that was released and stuff like that, that was the classic Van Halen sound, you know, those 2 tunes. And I was thought, yeah, give me an album of this, like that'd be great. And then it all fell apart after that. It was really too bad, but those tunes were killer, you know. And I love the sounds on those songs too. It sounds kind of more like he's maybe playing a Strat in the, you know, 2 and 4 position or something, 2 or 4 position or whatever, like some of those, the stringy, you know, cleaner kind of sounds. So this is really cool. So I don't know what he used, but I know he had some of those Wolfgangs around that time that had 3 single coils and stuff, and it sounded like he was using that maybe or something. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Paul Davids did a video comparing his Kemper to his Matchless. It was good, but still not the same, says T-Mits. Yeah, yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, and you know, it's like I found the most difficult thing to do on a Kemper was the EL84 amps. Actually, I tried to do a couple, and they didn't come out right, and I couldn't figure out why, if it was something I was doing wrong. But trying to do the edge of breakup EL84 amps, it didn't work for some reason for me. Whereas if I was doing a big EL34 head or whatever, you know, a distorted rock sound or a clean sound, clean Fendery sound, it could do those quite well, I found. So I didn't know what was going on, but I wonder if Paul had that same experience. But anyways, yeah. Let's see. Christopher's asking about a Friedman small box pedal, best for AC30 or Fender Hot Rod Deluxe. You got to try it. Too many variables, you know. Like even on an AC30, what input you plug into, you know. Or if you got a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, I don't even know if there's a bright cap on those amps, but generally those are amps that people use with pedals a lot. They're pretty pedal friendly, I think. But like on an AC30, you know, like run a Plexitone into an AC30, a Carl Martin one. If you go into the normal channel, it sounds ferocious. It's a great sound. If you run into the top boost channel, it'll take your head off on the same amp, you know, so it just depends. You know, too many variables. These are questions that you'll only know by trying. And Cryptor says Kemper is outdated, but is still my main rig in the studio. You know, I'm sure they'll come up with a update at some point or something, you know. My main thing with it always, because I think it's a good tool and it's been a great tool for people, is that it's a little like the process of plugging it in, and the, you know, it's a little like what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, I don't want to say it's not user friendly, because it's pretty easy to use, but there's also like some menus, or like just naming a preset. That was hard, turning that damn dial and going through all the little things. And then of course I guess they came out with the editor, right? And so that's not really fair, because the editor works quite well for it, for doing things like that and stuff. But just on the unit itself, you know, it's probably due for an update, I guess, you know. It's a great tool though, and a lot of people have used them to, you know, to good effect over the last 10 years or so, because I think it's been out almost that long, hasn't it? Like pretty close. So you know, they've had a great run with that thing, and you know, I'm sure they'll continue to develop it and stuff. That on the Quad Cortex, you've got a touch screen with a tap, you know, like a QWERTY or whatever keyboard. So when you're naming something, you just store you know, with this great big touch screen that's like this big or whatever. So it's pretty cool. You know, they've kind of put it all together, I guess, in that sense, where it's doing profiling stuff, or they call it capturing, and then it's got the touch screen of something like a head rush and all that good stuff. So I don't know, crazy, all these options these days. The future. Stefan is up there in the super chat. He's in Europe, broadly Europe, and he says, Desert Island Dilemma, would you use a load box plus impulse response or the aux box? What's your favorite between the two? I always say to people, if you're trying to make that decision, you have to look at what it is you want to do. The aux is a deeper device, and it's got the effects built in. You can't load your own IRs, so it's the internal cabinets, but they sound good, and it's of course got the ability to not a lot of people probably use it this way, but you can use it as an amp attenuator and play your amp through your cabinet. It's kind of a resistive sounding attenuator to me, but it works like kind of like hot plate style. So there's all those things, and then the integrated app is cool, and you have to use that. I mean, really with it. So it's either iPad or you can do it on a Mac or whatever. I guess I don't know if they've got PC, but they probably do for it now, I would think. So if that sounds good to you, like doing all your stuff on the, like it's a little bit more tweaky, right? Whereas a Sur reactive load, something like that, is plug and play. There's not as many options, and there's no effects built in and all that kind of stuff, but it's plug and play. You plug in the reactive load and dial up a cabinet and go, that sounds cool, and just go. And so there's a simplicity to it, less options, and it's about half the price. So what do you want to do? If you're the kind of person that's like, I just want something I can plug in, and I got my JCM 800 or whatever, and I want to plug in and record some guitar tracks. I don't want to mess around a lot. I just want I like greenbacks or V30s or whatever. Let's go. Let's record. Like Steve Stevens tried it, and he told me the day that he got it, he's like, this thing's great. I plugged it in. I had a session to do for Germany, for artists in Germany. I got a great sound in 10 minutes. I was playing guitar. I tracked it, sent the tracks off, and the producer was like, these sound great. This is awesome. Done. And you might never think about it beyond that. You just plug it in and get your sound. Some people want to do that. They don't want to tweak around a lot, and they just want something that works. And so at that point, it's like, why spend the money? But other people want more options and more ability to tweak effects and stuff and EQ and inside the thing. So just, it's like buying a simple car versus buying a car with all the options and bells and whistles. One's cheaper and gets you from A to B. The other one gets you from A to B and is more expensive, but it's got all this fancy stuff in it. And there's good reasons to have both, depending on who you are. I'm so long-winded about this. I'm going to go down to the bottom of the chat and see what you guys are talking about. Nice to just get into the creative process as teammates. Yeah, and I always come back to It Might Get Loud, that great movie. The creative process in that movie is so well defined when it comes to gear and stuff for me, by the scene with the Edge showing his sound on, I think the song's Elevation or something, where he turns off all the effects. He's got 4 million effects going on that, and he plays the part that he's playing without the effects. And he goes, because this is what it sounds like with nothing. So he's like, see, like I used this stuff to inspire me. And without this stuff, it wouldn't sound like, first of all, it wouldn't sound like him, wouldn't sound like the same guitar part. And he uses it to inspire him. So he says, technology for me drives my creativity, The next scene is Jack White driving down the road in an old car or whatever. And you hear his voiceover saying, technology is absolutely the enemy of creativity. Right? And neither guy is wrong. They're both right. It's just what works for them. So I'll leave it at that. Rhett's here. What's up, Rhett? How you doing? I've been wanting to watch your video about your new AC30, new old AC30. I see you got a Desert Island kind of AC30. So I'm going to check that out. One of these spots. Really, by the way, I've really been enjoying your videos on the orange sound or the different amps that you've been doing and stuff. Like I learned actually, because I don't know that much about the different models of orange. So I watched that video and you did it with Rick, and I really enjoyed. I learned a little bit about if I was going to get an orange, which ones I liked, and it was funny because then I kind of bounced that off Dave Friedman, and I was like, did you know that this one has like less gain? And so he goes, oh yeah, like this one to me and this one are kind of useless, but this one sounds good, or whatever. And I was like, okay, because there was a couple that I was like, oh, I would never have a use for that amp, but that one's pretty cool. And so I learned a lot. They're good. Those videos you're doing, you know how to make good videos. Yes, you do. That's why you're you. So I'll have to watch the one on your new Vox. I love a good Vox, and I have a really nice one that I've been borrowing in the other room that's a little bit later than yours. I think yours is probably a 63 or 64. Mine looks like it's a 65. It's not mine, but I'm borrowing it. But I think I'm going to have to ask the guy if I can buy it from him, because I've always wanted, I need to listen to it and make sure it's really a primo one, though. And make sure it's not, if I'm going to do it, I should have one that's, my thing with them is it always seems like the ones with the added top boost on the back you know, the one where it's kind of like the volume, the treble and bass or whatever on the back that was tacked on, and copper panel. I don't know, just because I've played a couple like that always sounded like unbelievable to me. And that's kind of the era I always wanted. The one I have here is a gray panel one that's like probably 65 or 66 or something in it. But I know it's nice and I need to listen to it. I used it in that treble booster video when I was doing the Brian May stuff. And I remember, to me, it sounded a little bit dark, like maybe the speakers were pretty worn in on it, which isn't a bad thing necessarily on an AC30. So I just need to listen, but I want to make sure that I can get those chimey, you know, really chimey AC30, you know, top boost sounds out of it, as opposed to just the overdriven, highly overdriven Brian May thing. So I'm going to take another listen to it. Yeah. Steve says he had a 65 Vox AC30 he bought in 1971 for 45 pounds. That's great. With silver speakers, best heavy rock amp ever. If you guys haven't seen it, there's a Queen show from, oh God, it's from 75, and I ran across it on YouTube, and it was fascinating because it's still kind of early days and it's pretty low tech, but it's really well recorded. And to watch Brian May and that and stuff and listen to the tones and stuff, it's so raw and just like, yeah, that's cool. Like it's a show from 75 somewhere in the UK. I can't remember the venue, but it's like a theater show. Kind of neat to watch. You can find it if you put in Queen 1975, you know, it'll pop up, I'm sure. And the AC30s sound raging on there. Pretty cool. And I guess DW is saying that Rhett played Tie Your Mother Down. Okay, I'm gonna have to go compare to my video, because in my treble booster video I started with Tie Your Mother Down, and so I want to listen to your Tie Your Mother Down compared to mine in my video. Yeah. And you're saying that you didn't use a treble booster on it. Okay, well at that point it's not a fair comparison actually, because that's a different thing. But I assume if you were playing Tie Your Mother Down, you got a close sound, you were using the top boost input. But kind of interesting. Ben Coombs is saying, I missed a top chat from Patrick Carroll. Do I think a Weber mini mask can hang as an attenuator? I had one years ago, and I wasn't crazy about it, to be honest. I know Fred from Divided by 13 used to recommend them, so that's when I got mine. And it sounded kind of like a typical, I don't know. It wasn't the greatest to me. I always say, for attenuation, just sort of get a power station. They're not that expensive. You've got the first generation ones, which are really quite good. And they're probably less money now used. You could find one because there's a new one out. So I bet you can get one for $500 or something now. It's not really that much more than it's the cost of a distortion pedal more than probably what a mask will cost you. And to me, it's just superior. You know, the load reamp thing works better than a passive attenuator of any sort that's just kind of sucking juice off the amp. You want to load the amp with a reactive load and then reamp with a really good power amp that's maybe also got some of that dampening and stuff with your cabinet. And you tend to get just a more, you know, like whether or not it sounds exactly the same as your amp is loud, it sounds really close. The best one that I've tried is the Iron Man, I think. The Iron Man attenuators from Tone King are quite good. And I've got videos of one or both. Can't remember. But check out my Iron Man videos. I think they sound really good. And you'll hear the sound changes a little when you use the attenuator, but it's like, well, it's still great. You want to make it like the sound can change a little, but like you want to be able to maybe get back whatever I don't want to say lost, but whatever changed with EQ, and also just still be a great sound. It's like, well, that sounds a little different, but it still sounds great. Many attenuators, when I use them, it's like, well, that sounds a little different and it's not as good. I think that's the thing, that I don't like. I think I got a zit right there. Look at that. God, like a headlight right in the middle of my lip. Merry Christmas. You're welcome. Anyways, what the hell was it? Oh yeah, attenuators. So attenuators, yeah, you don't want to get a sound that's like not quite as good. It can change a little, but be like, well, that's still a great sound, and that's a great sound. It's just a little bit different, and I can EQ it or do whatever. That's the way I feel about it. Dave's Guitar World is in Costa Rica, and he says, I am the best. Dude, I love your country. I was down there 2011. I had such a fun time. 2 weeks I spent down there. 2 weeks. Really, really nice. I went to, kind of out by Tamarindo, Playa Negra, it's called. Beautiful black sand beach. And I had a hut and sat on the beach and drank your cervezas. And I had my Taylor guitar down there. I remember that. And I don't know. It was ideal. Great country. Nice place to visit. I remember getting there, though. The only thing is I flew into San Jose and then drove to the West Coast, which was a 3 or 4, maybe 4-hour drive on that highway through central Costa Rica, which is like a 2-lane highway. It's by, it's a, I mean, borderline sort of almost like dirt road at times. And it was a little crazy. Beautiful though. I mean, you're driving through this jungle basically in Costa Rica, but they're big truck. It's one of the main roads, right? And there's these big trucks coming the other way, and they'll like come over a hill, and it's like, oh my god, you know, you're trying to just. So I thought the potential for bad things to happen is at least moderate, if not relatively high, along this highway. Like you have to be on your game. You know, you just got off a plane, 4 or 5 hour, 6-hour flight or whatever it is, and now you're driving like 4 hours through a Costa Rican jungle with big trucks coming down the other way. I thought next time I'll probably fly into the other town that was closer. It's a little more expensive to fly in there, but it's only a half an hour from, or 45 minutes or something from where I was going. So anyway, that's that story. But I loved Costa Rica, and really nice people, and pura vida, wonderful. Brian May is such an original badass his teammates. He and his dad built his guitar from a tree in their backyard. I heard it was from like a mantle or something. Was it a tree? I thought it was a piece of wood from like, might have been. I don't know. I don't know what the true story is. Somebody tell us the true Brian May guitar story. It's very sophisticated too, like the way it's, you know, if you see the inside of it and stuff, and the way that they layered it and did everything that they did, it's kind of crazy. The fact that they built that guitar and then he used it for his entire career and still uses it is unbelievable. It's wild. Because, you know, it's not like building a Strat. It's a set neck thing with like this, you know, fabricated tremolo arm and bridge system that they did. And it's like they built everything except for the pickups, it seems like, in the pots, the switches. It's pretty interesting. Todd Roy says, yeah, transportation and highway infrastructures in other countries can be dicey. Yeah, I mean, you know, I remember going to Germany and thinking, you know, when first time I went to GetCon, by which, you know, I had to get off the plane in Nuremberg after flying for like, you know, 12 hours for connection flight and everything, and get in a car and then drive for about 3 hours plus to get to where I was going, which is only about 2 kilometers from the Czech border. I thought, I'm basically driving to the, you know, Czech Republic right now. Is this gonna be okay? Like, I've never done this. I've never driven in Germany, you know, never driven in Europe actually up till then. Rented my car, and oh my god, the highways in Germany are the best highways in the world. Like, this couldn't be easier. This is unbelievable, and I actually really enjoyed it, you know. But I remember getting there after dark, and like the nav, you put the nav, you know, I gotta make sure to get a car with nav and everything, and I put in the address and it showed me the way and stuff, and it's taking me on some of the roads it took me on. I'm like literally driving down country road, winding through, you know, orchards, and, you know, I'm like, and it's dark, and I'm in Germany, and I was just like, oh my god, I hope this gets me where I'm going, and it did. Everything was okay. Okay. Brian's dad also built the boost Brian used on Sheer Heart Attack. He lost his old Rangemaster on their first US tour. That's interesting. I know later on he was using Cornish ones. He built them basically clones, and you know, and then he had the double one that he used for a while. They sound a little different than a Rangemaster, a little fatter. They've got the way they roll off the low end is different stuff. Maybe that was something he requested. Team had said, was the steering wheel on the other side? No, in Germany and most countries in Europe, that's left-hand drive, just like in the States. You just got to be a little bit more aware of the highways. It's like, you stay out of that left lane unless you're going 160 kilometers an hour, or more. Use it, which is cool because it's a little more like, you go in the center lane or whatever if you're going 120 or 130 or whatever, and everybody obeys it, and it's pretty safe. Any thoughts on the Amp RX brown box voltage attenuator? It's supposed to be cool. Seems like a great way to do it. I think it only does it only do the one voltage, or can you set voltage? I think it does 110 or whatever. Just brings it down a few volts that it's more vintage friendly. They want to see 110 volts, not 120 plus. A couple top chats. Thanks, guys, for doing the super chat. We got 485 people online. Nice to have you all here. Wichita, what's up, Wichita? It's Matt. He says, thoughts on replacement tube brands. I had the stock JJ. Let's try that again. I had the stock JJ tubes on my new PRS Custom 30 replaced with Sovtech. The JJs were adding some odd harmonics, and Sovtech's made a huge improvement. Cool. Whatever you hear, I'm not really crazy if you're talking about JJ preamp tubes. I'm not really a fan of their standard ECC 83 12X7 variant, but I know they have other ones that people like the 803. They have a new one that's a different, some sort of variant. I don't know. I know Dave Friedman was mentioning that Electro Harmonics has a new, I think it's a 7025 style, it's supposed to be like a low noise situation, 12AX7 variant or whatever, that he said he tried and he quite likes. In China, I know that there's been issues with the Chinese tubes. Like something's wrong with the factory. They had a fire or something happened. I don't know what, if it's related to the pandemic or anything else, but tough to get good 12X7s from there right now, which sucks because they were kind of a lot of people's favorites. So Dave's looking at these EH ones, and that seems like kind of cool, if that's... I like JJ6V6s. I'll say that. They're good. My favorite EL34s these days are the EH. They are very consistent. We use them in the PT100s now. I think Friedman's using them in all his amps too. Never really liked the JJ EL34s. I always thought they had this weird kind of grindy mid-range thing. But they were reliable for a long time until they kind of weren't. And then it was like, okay, we need to find an alternative. And the EH I've liked the EH always. They always sounded good to me. I would say going back, way back in the top hat, they still might be a set in that amp. I'm not sure. It might have Mullards in it, actually, I think. But like original ones. Because I put some in, I think, like 15 years ago. Still in there, I think. But I remember Brian Gerhardt showing me in that amp from Top Hat. EH is dimed, cranked, like really driven hard compared to the Svetlanas that everybody was raving about at the time, from the original Svetlana, the real factory and all that. And him being, like, check it out. Like, these kind of Svetlanas sound kind of weird, driven hard, and the EHs sound really cool. And I was like, oh yeah. And he showed me that, and it's best to try things. But anyways, yeah, it just depends on what you want to do. I would say buy a few and experiment, depending on the amp you have. You see PRS Custom 30 is probably a relatively, not super high gain, like kind of, vintagey. I find the amps where it makes the least difference are the multi-stage, diesel or, heavily overdriven amps, the kind of a little bit more like less stages amps, a little bit more vintage, they tend to, you hear the differences in the tubes a little bit more. And I would probably just, I don't know, Tube Store, Tube Depot, or those different places, just pick up some modern variants and test them out, maybe in V1 or whatever. You got to try them in every position though, One of my favorite tubes in the phase inverter, at least of a Marshall style amp, is a Sovtech LPS, the long plate one. Sounds great. I tried compared to new old stock, other long plate, you know, like Sylvanias and other twos. And I thought the LPS sounded just as good, to be honest. So I really like that LPS tube. Doesn't work in every position though. Rich Monks is up there in the top chat, and he says solos that send actual chills down your spine. Mine, Eruption, Tremolo Picked Violin Melody, We Will Rock You, Lion's War Tone, Gary Moore's Shapes of Things, the B-string pull-offs, Vi's Trick Bag, Position Shifts. Yeah, you're making me think. Okay, like a few that just, there's too many. I'm being flooded with, you know, thoughts, but like recently the solo for You're No Good by Van Halen. And I heard also Ted Templeman talking about it in his book, where he said that Ed went in to cut that solo. And I love the vibe of that song, how they turned it into this really dark kind of, I don't know, it's got such a mood, that song, this dark mood to it. And Ted described it as Ed did that thing with the sort of like spiders scampering, you know, when he does the harmonic thing down the string. And yeah, it's got this amazing vibe to it, you know, like that. So I love that. It's so cool. You mentioned Steve Vai. The song Blue Powder, I think, really hits some like cool peaks and valleys and stuff, and he's so good at that, you know, where I feel like some of those long notes where he holds and then falls into some crazy fast run or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, it's so cool. The melody to Cause We've Ended as Lovers by Jeff Beck, which is just, one time I sat down and really tried to nail the phrasing and stuff, and it's so beautiful. And you know, when I grew up a little bit and I started to appreciate slower guitar and realized that was kind of where it's at, and like, yeah, you know, it isn't. But if you're Yngwie, you're like, no, more is more. Less isn't more. More is more. You know, it's just stupid to say less is more. More is more, obviously. And it can be, but the way that Jeff played on that and interpreted that melody is so beautiful, you know. And so if you can get anywhere close to that, you're really communicating on the guitar. What else? Taxman. So cool, you know. I was listening to that. I thought, God, how did he come up with that? Taxman, with that weird. It's so brilliant, you know. And it's Paul playing that solo. It's so cool. It's like, a great guitar solo. Anybody listen to New McCartney? I just listened to a little bit. I haven't really gotten into it. Not fair enough to say that I've listened to it. To be honest, I need to like really listen. But it's cool that it's out, and I'll give it a go. Anyway, there's a few solos that come to mind. Brian's guitar was made from a fireplace. Somebody says, yeah, that's what I heard. Like a fireplace. Like, in other words, I took it as a mantle. You know, like a fireplace, wooden mantle situation. That's what I heard as well. Are B benders stupid? Says Gabriel Tone Guitars. Well, you know, it depends on the sound. Nothing's stupid if you make good sounds with it. You know, but things could be stupid if you make really annoying sounds with it. You know, it just depends on what you're doing. So, I'm sure if I played one, it would be pretty stupid. Maybe if I practiced for 4 or 5 months, I'd get a couple cool licks. But, you know, thanks you guys, by the way, Rich Monks and Matt, for doing the top chat. I hope the super chat. I hope that helps. The answers I gave you, I don't know if it did or not, but I hope so. Arthur says, Pete, have you tried that guitar Nutbuster? It's a floating string locking system. Haven't even heard of it. I'm going to check that out. So much gear, so little time. Craig says, love your work. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Angus says, have you played a good modern 335 that would stack up against your vintage one? You know, I'm sure you could find a good modern one. I mean, my Dave Grohl is pretty cool. It's not the same, but it's cool. And it's my only other sort of semi-hollow that I have. I think you know, there's some great other, like Collings, for example, I think makes some beautiful guitars, and you could look at those and probably find something that's pretty amazing. My 335 is a real interesting animal. I mean, it's not a pristine, you know, it's had a couple of headstock repairs, and it's been gouged out underneath the pickup. I'm going to attribute a lot of the tone. Well, no, I mean, it's half the guitar and the body and the maple and all that stuff, the way that a 335 is designed, and half those pickups, which are low wind. You know, they're only 7-something K. They're not hot at all, the pickups in that guitar, but it's got a bark to it that's amazing. The low wind with the combination of the wood of the guitar, just more of the guitar comes through. I don't know, like the wood tone of the guitar, and you hear it in the videos when I play that guitar. Anybody that tells you that, you know, guitars are like the tone wood thing doesn't matter is full of shit, and you can hear it in those any video, even on YouTube, that I play on the 335. It has this distinct voice, and it's not the pickup, it's the pickup getting out of the way of the guitar. I mean, the pickup has a sound, sure, but you hear the air and the kind of the bark of that guitar, and it's got this very distinct, it's probably my most distinct sounding guitar. In many ways, tonally, I think I prefer the sound of the 335 to the Les Paul. Like, I saw a video recently where somebody was playing an old 335 compared to an old Les Paul, and I just think the 335 has this character that's so pleasing. I don't know how to describe it. It's got air around the notes and stuff, whereas the Les Paul is a little more of a fundamental tone. Do you know what I mean? Like a fundamental note kind of sound. And then the 335 has all this character to it. It's got a little bit more air or something. I don't know. It's kind of cool, you know? Des Sherwood says, the second Mr. Crowley solo sends shivers for me. Yeah, that's a good one. I know the one you mean. Randy was really unique with the way that he cut his solos, and I was kind of influenced by that because he'd triple track them. And if you ever want to know a good trick for your solos, try it. Like, okay, like in a song, if you've got like a bunch of lead guitar. I did this on Monster Movie, song from Guitar Nerd. I was playing the song's kind of frantic, and there's a lot of guitar going on in it, stuff. And then when I got to whatever was supposed to be the solo, kind of post-bridge, it was like, well, where do I go now? I need to make this explode and go up a notch, energy-wise. So we're coming out of the kind of the down section of Monster Movie, and it's kind of like the down bridge section with those different chord changes and stuff. And then I needed to power in to the end of kind of the climax of the song where it breaks down and goes back into the, and I thought, what am I going to do? Like, how do I lift this solo? And part of it is the notes that I tried to, you know, that I played in the phrases and the way I tried to build the solo and all that stuff. But part of it is that I triple tracked it. So I panned two of them out and put one up the middle, and then I tried to play it not perfectly accurate, but pretty close, like Randy would. And it just makes the song lift, because it's like all of a sudden the lead guitar is huge, you know, it's three playing in unison. And at the end, I split into harmony. So that's the only time that you hear it as three distinct guitars. But take a listen to it if you so desire, and you can hear my Randy influence in a way, like just his, I love that he would triple track and stuff and do, you know, it gives his solos a really distinct sound. His solos were obviously very written, and, you know, I think he really primarily loved the classical guitar. I think he loved rock too, but I mean, he was a real avid student of classical, and things were written, and it was musically, it wasn't about blues improv for him, you know, and that's fine. You know, that's the way Hotel California was, you know, it's like being a great improviser is an amazing skill, but composing a great solo is arguably at least as valuable, because look at some of the greatest guitar solos, right? Comfortably Numb, or, I mean, David plays the same thing. I don't know whether he improvised it and then learned it, but I think some of his stuff was worked out. It had to be, you know, some of Gilmour's phrasing and stuff. And certainly the Hotel California solo was written out. Certainly the Taxman solo was at least practiced, and he went, what if I do this, and probably did a couple takes of it or whatever, you know. Some of the greatest guitar solos are more like little musical breaks that are, you know, it's not, I guess maybe we think guitar solo, you're expressing yourself in the moment or whatever, but it doesn't have to be improvised. That's all I'm saying. You know, maybe I'm just saying that because I wish I was a better improviser, but it's just true too. You know, I don't work out everything. You know, actually these days I'm getting better and better at just kind of winging it a little bit more. But what I try and do is I try and come up with a beginning and then a framework, and then I know where I'm going to end up, and then some variation in the middle is always cool. You know, when I'm just talking about when I'm tracking. Jason's up there in the super chat. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. He says, "Hi, Pete. Have you compared the MXR Echoplex pre-pedal against the clinch effects?" I haven't actually. Your weekly chat helped me through lockdown, man. Thanks, Jason. So first of all, it's helped me too. I mean, like, you know, we've all got stuff going on. It's been a stressful friggin' time. You know, it's like such a crazy, like, you know, I just can't wait to just kind of move on, to be honest. But, you know, like everybody, and we're all feeling the same thing, you know, and I get so frustrated sometimes with things like, but this is really therapeutic. Like I don't have time to think about anything else. We're just talking guitar, and it takes me to a different place. So, you know, like it's really fun for me and really, really helpful. So thanks for being here, and we're all in this together. The MXR Echoplex pre compared to the clinch. I haven't tried them both. The clinch is excellent. I am assuming it's a fairly simple circuit, you know, and I really like what MXR has been doing these days. I mean, they're coming up with some great stuff. The Echoplex pedal in particular, delay, is one of my favorites. It's awesome. So to the point where I think it's like having a real Echoplex is really cool, but God, kind of like my recent experience with one, they are a pain in the ass. You guys are probably wondering what the hell this thing is, right? I haven't even mentioned it. It's just been like the elephant in the room, so to speak. It's a Bose PA that I'm making a video for. It's a full range, you know, flat response, full range, and it's really pretty cool. It sounds good and it's kind of fun. It looks massive, but it breaks down and you could carry it. It's not heavy at all. You know, you could carry it in, you know, one trip in the car, probably with an acoustic over your shoulder and a gig bag. And so it's interesting. I'm going to do a video of it starting today and put it out on Tuesday. What else? Jason, I hope that was a helpful answer. Bose line array, says KXM Rock. Yeah, it's a little, a little small. This is the smallest one, actually. They make a bigger model that's got more input channels because there's a mixer in the back that's got 3 inputs, but you can also Bluetooth your phone up to it. So you could, or a computer, so you could play tracks through it and jam along through via Bluetooth. So one of the inputs is Bluetooth with an EQ and its own volume control and stuff. And then there's a couple more inputs for, you know, like an acoustic or electric or whatever. And pretty cool. Would you think the Bose is fit to be used as a monitor instead of a cabinet? Yeah. I mean, you could use it any way you want. I think that's kind of why they contacted me, is they want, you know, for guys that maybe use modelers, or, you know, I tried the output of my PT head into it because it's a fun thing I can do with the PT-15, right? I can take the line out right into it, and that sounded really good. You know, you can crank the amp, you get more cranked amp tones at lower volumes and stuff. I mean, for, you know, you can stick it in the corner of your room at home, I guess, and use it for, you know, acoustic guitar, or for, it's got reverb in it that sounds really nice too, that you can just add per channel, turn it on, give a little bit of, you know, something to the sound. I mean, I can imagine if you're a solo performer playing acoustic and with vocal, maybe that's all you need. You know, you set that up in the coffee house or in the club or whatever, and it's got plenty of power. It sounds quite flat and cool. You know, like really, it sounds pretty hi-fi and amazing stuff they're doing these days. So just another way to go as far as the full range thing. You know, completely different thing than a floor monitor, but maybe less, it's way less directional. I mean, it's got this huge, you know, you can be anywhere close to it and you can kind of hear what's going on. And I think that's the idea, is maybe as a monitor, you don't have to be standing right in front of your thing. It kind of disperses sound in a way that is really easy to hear. You can walk around and, you know, so that's cool. Richard says that Carina Explorer is nice. It's actually it's a destroyer. I showed it last week, but it's an Ibanez destroyer. That's my favorite new thing to have around here. It's so much fun to play. I used it on a lot of videos, like, well, at least 2 over the last week, and, you know, it definitely influenced the tracks that I was playing with its tones and stuff. It's a lot of fun. Matthew says, hey, Pete, lately I've been playing with pickup height and even pole piece height in P90s. How do you like yours set, and how do you find it affects tone? I use mostly vintage range output pickups. You know, I kind of set it like on the, I set, especially my bridge pickup, kind of on the medium high side. That's where I feel most comfortable. I don't like setting them too low, although it can really, you have to experiment because different pickups, it kind of affects the sound more than others. So it's just a matter of experimentation, I think. You know, experiment with it and see what works for your particular setup. I don't know how else to describe it. There's like, you kind of have to drop the bass side a little bit of the pickup, so you angle it a bit because the bass strings have more energy. So you always kind of want to do that just a little, and listen with a clean sound, not a distorted sound, so that it's not compressing. You know, play a clean sound and listen to all the strings, and just go by ear and kind of vary the to get an even volume, I would say. And then switch between your neck pickup and your bridge pickup in the middle position, and listen to if there's a big jump in volume when you go to the neck pickup, a big jump in bass energy, you know, which there generally is. If you've got them set the same, you need to drop because there's more energy from the string at the neck. So does that make sense? Because the string vibrate, you can physically see the string vibrating more in the neck position, you know, over the neck pickup, than it's just not making as much energy kind of at the bridge. So you know, that's why the neck pickups are always a little bit lower generally. So Brett Holman saying, do you have 10s on the Destroyer? I don't. I've got 9.5 right now, actually, which is what I use, 9.5 to 44. And I really like that string gauge. It's the Primo Slinkies from Ernie Ball that I use. Diodario makes a set as well, 9.5. What's the small Marshall head on top of your stack of amps? It's a 1 watt. They came out with these about, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, probably. One of those Marshall 1 watts. You can do workout with it, you know. It's little, it weighs nothing, but it's actually got a tube in there and has a little like low power switch. I think there's a resistor in there. Excuse me. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze, but then it went away. Yeah, so anyway, you hit this in and then it's like perfect TV volume, jamming at home, low volume, and out it's surprisingly loud. I mean, 1 watt still, it'll piss your neighbor off if you're in an apartment. Kind of amazing. But anyway, this is my favorite of the little Marshall 1 watts, and I bought it off a guy on the gear page. It's got nothing but a volume and a tone, and this is the one that's supposed to sound like a JTM 45. And it just does beautiful mid-gain, crunchy distortion, Led Zeppelin, whatever. It sounds great. Really good little amp. I realized that I have a cabinet for it, and I don't know where the hell it is. I literally don't know what I did with it. It's a 110 little baby Marshall cabinet with a greenback in it, and I have no clue what I did with it, and I have to find it because I don't know. It's cool to use with this, and so I need to track it down. When I move studios and move my home and stuff, I remember taking it somewhere, and I don't know. I gotta figure out what I did with it because it mates with that amp really nicely. But they're great. They made them in 70s, more sort of JMP, you know, a little bit, you know, crunchier versions. God, this webcam sucks in this computer. We'll get another one of these days. Anyways, they made sort of the DSL style. They made a JCM 800 style one. They made like higher gain ones, you know, and stuff. But that was my favorite, just the simple volume tone, you know, cool little thing. Yeah. Where is the Jackson you used in your latest video? It's in the other room, actually. That is my guitar that I grew up playing, you know, kind of like when I'd had other guitars, quite a few actually, but that was the one that I got when I was real serious. And that was my favorite guitar, I think, growing up. And I practiced on that like crazy on that guitar. So it was fun to play in the video. Actually, it's really easy to play that guitar. It still plays great. I didn't even do anything to it. You know, it had strings put on it a little while ago, and I pulled it out and tuned it up. And was like, yep, it works great. The bridge posts are a little, the Floyd is a little wonky on it. Like when you push it down, it's a little flat. You pull it up, it's a little sharp. I think maybe the posts need to be, the knife edges need to be sharpened a little or something. But it basically works great still. So it was fun to bust it out for that video. I just thought, why not? It's got a very distinctive sound. You can hear it in that video. Works well with, especially, okay, so the video that I used the Jackson in was for this pedal, the Aftermath from VS Audio. And this is a kind of high gain, modern sounding distortion that doesn't have a mid-range control. It's got a bass and treble. It's fairly scooped sounding in its character. It's not scooped, but, you know, kind of flat mids for sure, not forward mids like a Marshall kind of thing. It's more like a modern sound to me with big bass and treble and stuff. So a full distortion. So with the JB in the Jackson, it was actually really, really good with this pedal, I think, because you can hear that, you know, JB has got a pronounced mid-range kind of sound to it that worked well with that. So yeah, it depends, you know, on what you want to do. What do you think about the new Kramer guitars? Best affordable shred machine in 2020. I haven't really played one. I think I looked at one. Yeah, I did. I looked at a couple that were hanging on the wall in a store in Glasgow the last time I was there, which would be a year ago. They had a couple of those newish Kramers. I thought, oh, let me see these things for a minute. And because, you know, kind of, I know they've got like their satchel model and stuff, but yeah, they're probably a good affordable shred machine. I would say that, you know. I don't know where they make them or where they're probably made in Korea or something, or who knows. But DW says, if you had to choose between a late Plexi era early metal panel 50-watt Plexi, an early 60s Les Paul SG Standard, and a late 60s ES 335, which way would you go? I would go for that SG Standard. Just because it's worth more money. If you've got an early 60s Les Paul SG Standard, you could sell it, buy a Plexi, and have enough money left over for a reissue Heritage, you know, custom shop SG Standard. Because they're about 10 grand. I mean, give or take. You know, if you could get an SG, a real 61 or 62 Les Paul SG, they're, I mean, in Japan, I remember I was looking a couple of years ago and they were like 11 or 12K over there with, you know, the exchange and all that. That's the equivalent. Pretty good. I know it sounds like a lot of money. Still a good value as a vintage guitar. Many of them have, you know, PAFs and great guitars with a killer neck and a lot of tone. Like, you know, a Les Paul is, you know, what, $175,000 for one that's probably, you know, had the Bigsby taken off it or something, you know, like a 59 Les Paul, I mean, or 60, you know, whereas you can get a 61, 62 Les Paul SG Standard for 11K or something. And there's a lot of tone in those guitars. You know, they're a great sounding guitar that you could definitely make a career on. So to me, yes, it's expensive, but it's still a good value in vintage. You know, I don't know that a 59 Les Paul, I mean, it's money in the bank kind of, but I don't know that they're a great value. Does that make sense? I mean, it's whatever you get. If you don't have the money, if you have the money, then who cares? Like if you've got that kind of cash to spend on a guitar, I guess it's money in the bank. But it's also an instrument that if it got broken or something, or, you know, can you take it out and play it? I mean, Joe Bonamassa does, I know. Is it something that I would take to a gig and use on tour? A Les Paul SG, yes, I would. I would take it and use it. I would insure it probably, and if it was broken, I would be, you know, heartbroken about it, but not as heartbroken as if I took a, like, I don't think I could take a 59 Les Paul on tour, no matter what I was doing. I know Brian Ray uses his vintage, you know, Les Paul, and he's got his old gold top and stuff, but he's playing with Paul McCartney, you know, like the guitars are well protected. I would still be worried because somebody can still trip and drop it when they're getting it to you, you know, on stage or something at a gig like that. I would just, I don't know. And how much tone? Yes, you can get your money back out of it, but like, how much tone do you? Are they really like? You know, a 61 SG or 62 SG Les Paul SG. Does it sound like it's worth 1/20th the price of a 59 Les Paul? I don't think so. You know, it's like I was saying, the 335. You mentioned 335 DW, or 345 or 55 late 60s. Not my favorite guitars, although there's some great ones. I would go for a Trini personally because I like Trini Lopez. If I was, you know, those with the like my Dave Grohl or whatever. Those are some of my favorite late 60s ES style guitars. But the neck on a lot of the late 60s semi-hollow Gibsons is really narrow to me. And the magic is in those, you know, up till about 64 or something. The wide neck is, mine has a really wide, thin neck, which is nice. It's cool. It's very playable. I've played a few that have a wide or slightly thicker neck that are just, that is the shit to die for right there. I mean, Tim Pierce has one that's really great. And Linda Perry had a 59, actually, that she got that was this wide, you know, it was a neck to die for. It was incredible. And it's a similar neck on those early, oh, sorry, 61, 62 Les Paul SGs. I've played a few that have a really cool neck. And then around 64, I think, is where they make that magic wide thing. You know, they went to this thinner, narrower, I should say, not thinner, narrower neck around 65 at some point on Gibsons. And just not the same to me after that. I'm not crazy about those necks when you know what I'm talking about, the mid 60s to late 60s narrower profile. 63, 64. Jim Siebel from Scumbag, he has a I think it's a 63, maybe it's 64, but it's an SG Special. That guitar has a neck on it. Well, it's actually very much like the neck on the Ibanez that I've got right there on the Destroyer. It's wide and it's rather thin, but it's wide, and the action's just like, you got to be kidding me. Like, it just plays like, you know, it's so cool. It's just so playable. Are Chinese Vox AC Customs worth it? They're on sale this month. Geez, I don't know. I don't know anything about that amp. I have this AC-15 here that's like, okay, you know, it's one of the hand wired ones. And I don't know what it is about AC-30s, man. It's like, I haven't played a lot of newer ones that, when you play an old one, like Rhett was here, I'm not sure if he's still here, but he just bought one. I gotta go watch his video on it. But you know, that era, and you play a good old one, you're like, oh wow, that's a very amazing guitar sound with no pedals or anything. And the new ones are sort of in that character, but they're like fizzier sometimes. And it's like, I don't know if it's down to speakers or what it is, but when you play a AC-30 top boost, you know, or even non-top boost one but those early 60s with the silver speakers and you turn them up, and you know, like I say, Linda Perry had this one with the top boost added copper panel, and it just would chime like, I don't know, it sounded like you've got the greatest compressor in the world plugged in or something, but it doesn't feel fake like some compressors do. It was just this organic, amazing guitar sound for, you know, this incredible thing. And I've never really played a new one that I felt like did that. I feel like the Korg ones from the 90s were pretty good. You know, like they're sort of like 85% of the way there. Just the standard run of the mill, the one with blues that they made forever. Really good amps. They were in every rental backline for years and great sound, you know. But when you play a good 60s one, you're like, ooh, you know, really great. Not unlike Blackfish Fenders. A good old Super Reverb or a good Deluxe that's well maintained and has original speakers and stuff, and you play it and you're like, oh my god, that sounds good. Plexi too, same thing, you know. Jesse says they don't travel well. They sound good, but they don't travel well. Maybe the construction or something. I mean, I know the circuit, like there's a whole like little online, you know, devoted group of followers that mess with the circuit and those hand wireds and stuff to make them more like old ones. I know they're not like the old ones, you know, which, you know. Dennis says, why waste your money on a 59 Les Paul? Well, I don't think it's a waste of money. I think it's like putting your money in the bank. You know, a good 59 Les Paul that hasn't been tinkered with and isn't damaged is like investing in a piece of art that you're going to be able to get your money back out of. You're saying buy a new one or one made a few years ago. I'm not saying that vintage guitars don't sound different or better, and at some point, some of them don't, but some are outstanding. You know, I mean, there is something to old guitars. I'm not saying like it. I'm just saying Well, I was more drawing the comparison between, because I'm not a vintage snob, but I do like, I've got a kind of a, I don't know, I like vintage guitars. I've got a few, so it's like I wouldn't have them if I thought like that new ones are every bit as, I don't know if it's just the vibe or what, but like you guys hear it. I mean, when I play my old Strat or when I play my 335, those are the guitars everybody talks about. I mean, people like my new guitars too, and my, different guitars and stuff. But every time I play the damn 335, it's like got its own fan club. Everybody's like, "Yeah, the 335," and it does have this sound that's like, I hear it. It's like a really special thing. So, L. Scott Music says, "I wonder what Linda Perry would think of Synergy amps." Linda's a vintage snob. She likes simplicity, and like she doesn't have a lot of interest, I don't think, in like modern, not that she dislikes modern gear, but I don't think she has I'm not saying that there's anything, I like the Synergy products and stuff, it's just not her. She's got a huge collection of vintage, and I worked for her for a long time, so it's like any time that I would do a session, it was always the vintage AC30 or this old Selmer she had that was great. It was 210s and it was amazing, or the 65 Deluxe Reverb. That's what we would always use. And generally some variation of, like I say, I lent her my 335. My 335 lived at Linda Perry's studio for like a year. And then one day I had to take it back because I needed it. She almost got hurt and was like, and she has this guy from Guitar Center Vintage that she would get guitars from, and he brought over a couple, and like 2 days later she had a 59 335. She's like, check this out, like sort of, and that's her, she was funny, we were friends, and I had to say that guitar she bought it as a Tobacco Sunburst 59 335 dot neck, and it was gorgeous and it sounded unbelievable. I was like, well, this is the best I can do. She loved my guitar, but she got, I think, an even better 335 is what I'm saying. Probably, had to pay for it, but she did it. Glenn Harris says, would you talk about your Comet amp? Sorry, I saw a post earlier, it might have been you, Glenn, as well, that was asking about pedals into Comet. And sorry, I meant to get into that, and then I never did. I don't actually use a lot of pedals with the Comet. I find that overdrives and stuff in the front, I don't know if it just makes it not... It's a little more finicky about drives and stuff than a Marshall, maybe. I don't know what that is, but it sounds great with a Green Rhino, which is basically an 808. I remember I used to use that into it for a lead boost. The Comet, just bar none, is a unbelievable sounding amp. If it's you, there was a fellow saying he was going to go to Songwriter 30, and it might have been you, and I'm just not sure. Don't hesitate. I mean, Hoagie makes incredible amps, and you couldn't talk to a nicer guy. He's a great guy and really makes a terrific amplifier. So, just go for it and enjoy, I would say. But the Concorde is it's kind of like, almost like it doesn't need pedals. Like, sure, you could use, an Echoplex or something into it, and that would be great. But like gain pedals and stuff, I don't know, it's got a beautiful voice all of its own. And it's a loud enough amp that where it's not like, I used to use it, I think, in gradual mode, which is the slightly less gainy mode. A switch called gradual and fast that the Comets have, and the fast is a little gainier and a little more punch and stuff. But at the volume that I used to use it with an attenuator, one of the Comet attenuators. It was just a passive, couple, the big resistors or whatever in a box. And it sounded good with the Comet attenuator. It must have been changing the sound a little bit because they all dull the tone a little bit, but it still was this great sound. And I used to use it like 1 click or 2 clicks down on that Comet attenuator. On gradual mode, on like the marking is like, I had it on like 6 on the amp. Can't see that, I guess, but cranked up 65% of the way or whatever. And it would just be this glorious rock guitar sound that was great for rhythm. And when I started with Chris Cornell, that's what I was using. That was the only amp, but I used that and maybe that divided by, I think, either that or my FTR, and I would A/B them, and it was a great rig. I mean, everything in front, all the effects in front. I would really only run effects on my clean sounds on the divided by, and then on that amp, I maybe would hit it with a a boost or a tube screamer style drive, maybe the Green Rhino, I think, and maybe some echo in the front end, you know, but everything was running vintage style into the front, and kind of a killer. Yeah. What else? What else? Pedals, not me. Just wanted to know specifically about that amp. That's Glenn. Well, okay. It sounds like a more. Oh, Frog Leap's here. What's up, dude? Leo. Good to see you. I miss you. When are we gonna get to when are we gonna get to hang again? I want to come to Norway. I just want to move to Norway. I'm going to move to the fjords of Norway and move next door. Can I build a place next to you? And we'll just make strange rock guitar videos. Where was I? Oh yeah, the Comet. So it sounds like a more refined Marshall. And by refined, I don't mean like it's got less high end or something. I mean, it's like a Marshall, like there's a little bit of a ratty quality to an old JMP or Plexi. That's not a bad thing. It just has a little bit of this raw, slightly, you know, that could be construed as when you hear the Comet, it's like got this richness through the mids that's like, oh, you know. And keep in mind, mine's had this little mod done to it that reduced the bass in the preamp a bit, because I find the way that it's not a bad thing, but the way that that the amp was originally designed, it's got quite a bit of low end in the front end. Great for single note solos and stuff, and for it tends to compress the front end a little bit more. Oh, Thomas, super chat. I'm going to get right back to you. Sorry, I missed yours. Sorry, bro. Come right back to your FM3 question. Anyways, with the mod, it had a little bit less low end, and so it would say a little tighter like a Marshall, because we just changed it to more like a Marshall value, basically. It sounded really good the way that it comes, but it's a little, with all that bass, when you'd hit a chord, it would tend to squish a little, like at the distortion levels that I wanted the amp to kind of work at. So that's mine's ever so slightly one cap different than a stock one, but the mids and everything are so rich on that amp. I always say I sold my other one that I had because I really just didn't need to have two, but I sold my other one to Lyle Workman, great guitar player, and he got it and used to use it. He'd take it out and use it with Sting and stuff. He was playing with Sting for a while. And he'd use the 50 watt Plexi and that amp. And he also said recording, like if you do a double with the Plexi on one side and then the Comet on the other side, they were just different enough that it was like, would lend this beautiful texture to the sound, you know? And a little, I hear it as just like a little bit more refined, richer mids that just, it's gorgeous. I don't know, for overdriven rock guitar. It's Ken Fisher's last amp, I think, that he designed, really. I think the KF50. And you know, Comet of course calls it Concord, but it's his design, and he was a brilliant amp designer. Carlos says, greetings from Nicaragua. What's up down there in Central America? Hope you're well. Okay, Thomas, sorry, to your question about the FM3. When I use the FM3 for recordings as a USB interface, do I need another audio interface for connecting my studio speakers, or is it possible and advisable to connect them with the FM3? I believe you can just use the FM3 and use the, you know, as an audio interface. I'm pretty sure. Just take the main outs and run them to your studio monitors. You just want to set it as the input and the output. And, you know, it's going to output the signal through the main outs of the FM3, I assume, to your monitors. So that's the idea. Same thing with a Helix, or you can use that as your primary audio interface if you want to. Yeah. Sorry, I missed your question the first time around. I'm a little scattered. Can you talk about the rhythm sound, says Eric, that you were getting with that Destroyer on Instagram this week? Holy smokes, that was sick. Clear and punchy. Well, the guitar sounds huge, so that helps. It's got this huge, full, broad quality to it that just sounds great. It's a great sounding guitar. But of course, the rhythm sound that I used this week was enhanced by the pedals I was using. So the Aftermath on one, and then the Q Boost, great pedal from Stone Deaf, which, you know, had that early Judas Priest kind of quality to it or something. It's like a stuck wah almost. I mean, Priest used range masters into Marshalls. This was a more like a mid-range boost into essentially a Marshall-y drive, but similar in that it's just does that like cut thing. But because that guitar sounds so big, you add some mids to it, and it just sounds big with then the mids, and it like it's a great sounding rock and roll guitar, that's for sure. When I say big, I just mean it sounds broad, like everything's there. You know, the rhythm sound, when I got it and I plugged it in, I was like, oh yes, because like the rhythm sound on Van Halen 1, when you hear the songs that Eddie used a Destroyer on, You Really Got Me is the most naked and apparent one. That fat, broad, distorted sound at the beginning of the song, when you hear the riff isolated, always was just like, that sounds unbelievable. And it doesn't sound exactly like some of the guitar sounds on the rest of the record. It's just like, and it really, to me, is kind of down to, well, it's down to a few factors, but you know, that guitar definitely, if I could see, okay, if it's that guitar with the right pickup in it, that would really go a long way. And then you use the JBL and the Celestion cranked Marshall, there it is. You know, it all comes into focus at that point. So any guitar that I've played with a bolt neck and a Strat bridge or whatever, that kind of thing, it just sounds thinner than that Destroyer. That guitar's got ample, clear, big, fat, extended low end, you know, and not in like a subby way or fake way you would add with an EQ or anything. It's something different when it's coming out of the guitar. Does that make sense? I think. Robert says, I want that Destroyer. No, Robert, you can't have, but you can get another one. Don't let Dave change the pickups in the Destroyer, says Buzz. Well, I think I want to try the Super 70s just to hear the difference. But if, you know, what we'll do is do an empirical test where we'll listen to it and then decide what sounds better and all that. I mean, they're Dave's pickups anyway. He bought a set of Super 70s, so I would have to buy them from him. And he would have to want to sell them to me, which he might not want to. Teamit says, I never knew that You Really Got Me was a Destroyer. Very cool. Yeah, it's that white Destroyer that he used on the first album. It was originally the color of this one. It looked exactly like this guitar, but then it was painted, you know, by 75 or 76. He had painted it white, put white knobs on it. It looked so cool when it was white. God, it would be cool if he hadn't hacked it, you know, to see what else he would have done with that guitar. Because I really like when he doesn't have the bar, actually. I mean, I love when he uses the bar, but it was really cool when he would play a Gibson too, you know, he'd just play a little bit differently and stuff. And it was a little more, you know, a little different. And it did have this amazing sound that you hear probably best represented on You Really Got Me. Yeah. And Steven says, I think that Destroyer from Canada sold this week as the listing change. Yeah, probably somebody bought it. But good luck to whoever was trying to get those guys on the phone from Tundra. I couldn't get them on the phone because that seemed like a good deal. It looked really straight, and you know, the guitar was all original, I think. So just couldn't seem to get through to them. But I'm not. I mean, this one, I couldn't forget about the pickups and stuff. The guitar just sounds amazing. Paul Stanley had a Destroyer like that, says Arthur. He gave it to Ace. Yeah, Ace used to play one. He was the other guitar player mainly that, you know, it was Eddie and Ace, I think, that were the ones that used the Destroyer a lot. Chris Holmes, of course. Eddie borrowed his for some of the songs on Women and Children First. I don't know which ones, but yeah. Cup of Noodles says, thanks for the suggestions. I guess you guys are talking about stuff. You say thoughts about Sir and other boutique options. Overpriced, overhyped? Never. Sir's not overpriced and not overhyped, because that guy cares about guitars and amps more than anybody. I mean, he really cares. And so, you know, you can't put a price on that, I don't think. I mean, you can, but I think he puts a reasonable price on it for making a guitar or amp in America that, you know, the gear's great, man. And, you know, support our local businesses and our local, you know, he employs a lot of people, and, you know, I don't know. Come on now. You know what I'm talking about. Ben Tom says, Robert Baker, how's the 80s rack coming? I didn't know. Are you making an 80s rack, Robert? I got to check it out. Oh, I got to do that video for you, Robert. We're collaborating on a little something. Sorry, Robert, I haven't gotten that to you yet. I will do that. Just reminded me by being here, just by your presence. Sorry, I will do that over the next day or two here. Get it to you. Let's see. Tom says, I use my AXFX3 as my main audio interface. Somebody had a question about using an FM3 as an audio interface and hooking their speakers up to it. Tom says he does that, but he needs an external mic pre. Yeah, you'll need another mic pre or something. But if all you're doing is tracking guitar and then playing music or whatever back through, speakers, you don't need to plug in a microphone for anything. Yeah. Then you're good. Buenos Aires, Argentina. Emiliano, hope I'm saying that right, my friend. He says that he just got a EVH chorus and he loves it. I did a video for that. I did. It was good sounding pedal. Have you ever used any of Analog Man's Sun Faces, says Rodrigo. I haven't used that particular pedal, but I trust all of his. Analog Man makes great pedals. I've never tried one I didn't like, so I'm sure, terrific sounding pedals. I'm sure variants on fuzz faces and stuff that you can trust him. He knows what he's doing. The King of Tone is one of my favorite pedals of all time, just for that clean side on it. So exceptional. Steven says, man, I'm sorry I'm late. I was late too, dude. So sorry, but I'm here now. Who else we got here? Let's see. Ronnie says he used to put a power soak on his JCM 800s and it'd make all the difference in the sustain. They were the original sort of resistive load box. And, I think good at the time. Created a certain sound. Wasn't a transparent Marshall-y sound, but hey, that Tom Schultz thing, WW Land says, any opinions on the new Soldano SLO 30? I tried one, and I wanted to get one eventually to have an alternate high gain sound around, so I ended up with the 100. I just personally, for me, it sounded what I wanted it to sound like. So I don't know. It sounded a little darker to me, the 30, which might not be a bad thing, but it just did. So I got I just decided I would get the 100. And I think it sounds, really cool for that type of amp. I quite enjoy it. It's a great big, broad, chunky distortion, isn't it? Yeah. And Thomas Wolf was saying, that was my non-answered super chat question 30 minutes ago. Sorry, I took so long to get to it, Thomas. It's my fault. Everything's my fault. Blame it all on me. It's all all the problems, it's all my fault. Telecaster. I like that name. Up there in the super chat. It's literally Telecaster. This is the greatest day of our life. What's that from? A chance to buy a 70s Lawsuit LP gold top. Is that like an Ibanez? Beautifully aged Bigsby. I'd love to see a picture of that. Had a refret and pickups rewound. Plays and sounds great. Old headstock repair. The G whatever decal bothers me. 700 euros. Yes or no? I don't know. I mean, it's too hard to say, man. So it's a set neck. Who made it? I wonder. Is it Ibanez or Tokai or something? I mean, if it really speaks to you and you play it, it's like I can't not buy this guitar. I don't know if I'd buy it as an investment or something, with a broken headstock. It's like, but without knowing a few more details, like exactly who made it and stuff like that, I don't know. I don't have a great perspective on what these guitars are worth anyway, to be honest. Like the mid 70s Lawsuit, the Destroyers. I got a little bit of knowledge on that now that I was looking for one and got it. But to me, it's like, so 700 euros, that's $1,200 or something, right? With a headstock repair, maybe. I mean, maybe a minty one will probably be, 2,500 or something, right? If it's anything like that guitar, but I don't know who made it. So I'm talking out of my butt right now. So don't let me do that. It was made by Ibanez. I'd love to see a photo of it. I'd love to see some of the other Les Pauls from that era, that they're Les Pauls, but the lawsuit ones that they made, because I haven't actually seen a lot of those that look a lot like real. The Tokais to me looked. I hear about these Ibanez lawsuit Les Pauls from the mid '70s, but I've never actually seen one where I was like, "Whoa, that's cool!" Like that looks like a '59 Les Paul or whatever. I've seen some of them as like, yeah, it looks like a Ibanez copy of a. It doesn't, but yet that guitar really closely resembles so yeah. Branton James says Chris Shiflett was on Tone Talk with Dave and Mark. He said he wanted lessons from you. Oh, yeah, we were talking on the phone last week, and we've talked about getting together, jamming stuff. That's cool. I watched most of that and I didn't hear him say that, so I must have missed it. He was good though. I like that guy. He's seems like a great dude. I don't know him well, but we had that one phone conversation, and I'd love to, seems like a real like fun rock and roll dude. So maybe we'll get together and jam some guitar. That would be cool. Foos, one of the great rock bands that's still out there rocking. Spanish Castle Magic is in the super chat, and he's just showing his appreciation, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Zed Essex says, weren't the Ibanez ones bolt-on? See, most of the ones that I've seen, Ibanez lawsuit era, are bolt-ons. That's what I'm saying. And they don't really look like quite right and all that. It's like, I don't know. So a set neck, real, like I'd love to see, did Ibanez make lawsuit era Les Pauls that were like really close to actually like, so we know Takai did, but I haven't seen an Ibanez, but maybe they exist and I just haven't seen one. Pete Thorn, great pickup to put in my old single pickup 88 Charvel Model 1. Depends what you want. That's Melly Telly. Depends what you want. You want more of a PAF thing, or do you want more hot rod? You can go all the way from, if you want a PAF style pickup, put a Thornbucker in there. If you want a little bit brighter than that, maybe a little bit more aggressive treble, put a 59 in it. If you want full-on kind of 84, 85, what everybody was doing, put a JB in it. It's a lot of mids, but they tend to grind into the front end of an amp nicely. If you want a bit more what I think is the ticket to Van Halen 1, put a super distortion in it. Or something similar. Duncan Custom. If you want Van Halen 2, put a EVH 78 or, the 78, the Duncan, something like that. Or maybe the Pariah that's similar. Thornbucker is a great option for a great PAF. It's an Alnica 4, so it's a little bit warmer on that. I want to say warmer. It's a little like sweeter in the top end. Not really. There's a little more similarity between Alnico 4 and Alnico 2 than there is between Alnico 5 and Alnico 2. So the 4 gets you in that direction a little bit. So depends what you want. Scott Rogers says, hey, from Sylvania, Ohio. Any feedbacks on the Marshall Studio Vintage 20 heads? Do they sound close to original Plexies? I've only heard them in videos and stuff, and I think they sound good in the videos. I know Doug Aldrich has one he seems to enjoy and has fun with it. Seems like a good option for, what are they, $13.99, brand new all day long from Sweetwater or whatever. Get you in the zone and, probably a fun amp to do a few mods on. I would be inclined to get one and send it to Friedman and just say, can you just make this like as good as you can to be like sounding similar to, just because he tends to get in there and he'll look at it and go, and he like, what if I change this resistor to a carbon comp? And what if this value is a little, what if we play with that? And then he'll listen, tune him in. And then that's how he approaches it. And, he's got a great 68 Plexi. That's always his benchmark. And he's a great guy for mods. So I would try and find one and probably it'd probably sound great out of the box or good, but then I would take it. I would just be inclined to send it to him and say, just work your thing. Don't want any like out and out mods, but if you see any like little values that you could change to make it in the zone more, go for it, and then let him have at it and see what happens. Hope that's helpful. Trevor Norse is up there in the top chat, and he says, you're a good man. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Thank you for being here, and best for 2021. Best to you as well. Thank you for doing the super chat. You guys are all too kind. You're contributing to my new coffee maker fund, so I don't have to drink this Keurig crap anymore. I'm gonna get a new. That's what I should get myself for Christmas. A nice coffee maker for the studio. I deserve it. And damn it, people like me. Some, except for my haters. Who else we got up there? Eric. What's up, dude? PT15 versus PT100 straight in with a single V30 cab sound differences. Not a hell of a lot, really. No CPU, mics, or pedals involved. The 15, you're going to find, if anything, is like on the overdrive channel. When you get it cranked up, it's going to seem a little, it's quieter. It's 15 watts, but you can get it easier into the zone because it's 15 watts. And if anything, it almost sounds a little sweeter than 100, which is a little more 100 and brutal in its character. Does that make sense? They have a different power section. Really, really similar in the preamp. Well, I'm talking on the distortion channel here. If you want to hear the difference between the sound of the clean channel and the 2 amps, listen to the latest video that I did for this pedal. Part 1 and part 2 guitar parts that I played. There's a rhythm guitar part that I played, and I did one through the clean channel of the 15 and one through the clean channel of the 100. You hear the 100 first and then the 15. And you can actually hear the difference with the overdrive box going into the 2 channels quite well, because I thought I'm going to show this because this shows the 2 different clean channels quite well, and the sound of the 15 has more mids, and you'll hear it just a richer overall through the mids, whereas the 100's a little more scooped, which is a little more blackface style Fender, a little more. The clean channel in this amp is a cross between a twin and a super at this point, really. It's which is really nice for sparkly, and it takes pedals great and stuff, but it just has a little bit less mid-range than the 15, which is more based off the Bella, which is sort of, Fender at the core, but a little bit of a Dumble thing going on. It's got a little fuller mids. And then on the overdrive side, yeah, you're going to notice there's a lot of similarities, but the 15, because when you're driving it hard, you tend to get at a lower volume into that driven power tube thing a little bit quicker. And it can tend to sound a little less, like a little sweeter and a little less hard or something, which isn't to say the 100 sounds. It's just a 100-watt amp, right? So, right? A 15 or 20 watt anything compared to a 100-watt, it'll give up the goods a little bit sooner. So, yeah. What else we got here? Pete Thorn is a new world man, says SD Design. It's true. It's true. I love that song, by the way. It's one of my favorite Rush songs. And I like Analog Kid, too. That's one of my favorite Rush songs. God, that's cool. The drum fill at the beginning. Oh, God, the guitar sound. I was a Signals guy. I loved Signals. And it's funny. I remember talking to Chris Cornell about this because he tuned out on Signals a little bit. I mean, he likes Rush and stuff, but he tuned out because he was a Moving Pictures guy. He's a big Moving Pictures fan. And I'm that much older, or sorry, he's that much older than me, was that much older than me, he's a few years older than me, where he was whatever, teenager, preteen, whatever, right when Moving Pictures was out. And that was like, obviously their, incredible album. It's an amazing sounding album. But I started listening really hard right when Signals came out. And that to me was a wonderful album, and he was kind of like, yeah, just, it's too, and I love Moving Pictures too. I just can't he thought it was a little too towards the keyboards and stuff, I think, And God, Signals is an amazing album. That has Losing It on it, which is like one of my favorite songs of all time. It's incredible. Such a gorgeous song. Eric, answered that one already up there in the super chat. That was about the 115. Rodney's up there in the super duper chat, and he says, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for being here and doing the super chat. Do you record the aux box Spitif into your Apollo? This is a great question because I got a story about that this week. Do you record the Spitif Sony Philips digital interface? Who out there knew that is what that stands for? Sony Philips digital interface into your Apollo, or do you use the 1/4-inch stereo analog out? So I've used the Spitif output literally for 4 years. And last week I did something with the aux and I got hung up for an hour trying to figure out why it wasn't working. Never figured it out. Digital out would not work. It always shows up in an Apollo as inputs 9 and 10, kind of, right after 1 through 8. And I agonized over it for an hour, and I was like, why can I not get output out of this thing? And I ended up just saying, you know what? Screw this. And I plugged in the analog out into 2 points on my patch band. Now I'm running analog because I never figured it out. Bad cable? I don't know. So one of the annoying things, here, I'm just going to take a picture of it. It'd be easier to show you. One of the annoying things that I found that I always had a complaint about, to be honest, with the aux was that it had, I think I have an early one. It had a, this style connector, right? Looks like an RCA connector for the digital out on the aux. But my Apollos are all this style connector, Toslink, right? So this is a little box that I found on Toslink to coax digital converter that I had to get in order to use my aux with another piece of UA gear. So 2 pieces of their gear that have, one has a digital out that isn't compatible with the other one. I was always like, why? But I think it's because I have an early aux. And correct me if I'm wrong, if any of you out there with the aux, tell me, does yours have the Toslink style connector on it? I think the advantage of the Toslink is it'll do multi-channel and maybe spit if it's just 2-channel or something like that. But anyway, I don't know. It just always frustrated me. I had to, literally, when I got the thing, I realized I couldn't plug it in digitally to the interface that was from the same company. I had to get this box, which took some research. I remember going to Fry's and being like, I need one of these. I need to go coax to Toslink. And you think the guys at Fry's could, they were like, huh? Like what the, and of course I went on Amazon, and that's why Amazon rules the world now, and why Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world, because I found one in 30 seconds that was $12 or whatever, and I had to order it on Amazon. But so I ordered it, and this worked perfectly for the last 4 years. So it's 2 cables, one coming out of the aux going into there, then a Toslink cable coming out of there and going into the Apollo. Worked fine. Couldn't get it to work the other day. No indication as to why. I tried for an hour. I was ready to throw it all out the window. And then I just went, you know what? Like, just take the analog outs out of the aux for them, you know. Those times when you're going to use it, just this isn't worth the stress of the digital thing anyway. And just so I plugged it in my patch bay, and it's just kind of like, I recommend using the digital if you can, if it works for you, because you're not going through an extra stage of analog to digital conversion, right? Which is always good, you know, to not, you know, because you're coming the analog out of the aux, then going back in, doing another conversion in, but who cares? You know, it sounds fine. And if it means you're going to get work done. You probably won't have any problem. Hook yours up. I'm sure it'll work fine. I probably have a bad cable. I probably buggered up the Toslink cable or something, yanking. Because I will say this, I noticed the first thing I noticed is it had come pulled out of my interface. So if you've noticed, my cable management isn't the best under my desk. So what? Who cares? I got stuff to do around here, so I don't have time to wrap cables and make sure it's super neat. It's kind of how I operate. I'm a little bit of a messy character sometimes. But anyway, the cable had gotten yanked out, which is one of the other things I don't like about Toslink, because the cables, it's not even like a Ethernet style connector. You can pull them out so easily. It's like, I don't understand why companies use Toslink over the good old school coax style connector, which seems to be way more solid to me. But I think it's got something to do with multi-channel audio. Anyways, it got yanked out. Maybe I busted the end on it or something when I, at one point, pulled it by doing something. That's very possible, actually. I bet it's a bad cable. Just order another Toslink cable and try it again. Thanks for helping me work through this problem in my studio today, folks. I appreciate you all being here. Paul Watts 003 is up there in the super duper chat, and he says, hi, Pete. Just wanted to add my appreciation for you being here on Sunday nights here in the UK. Hang in there, man, over there. I know you guys are going through another hardcore lockdown in the UK. Stay inside, play guitar. ST Design says, happy holidays. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Thanks for doing the super chat. And you're too kind. You are too kind. Your aux has both coax and Toslink out. I don't think so, man. If you're right, then I'm going to give up the show, and you can take it over for me. It has, I think you're right. Are you serious? Oh my God. Holy shit, you're right. Wow. Okay. I'm going to give up this week then and hand the show over to, who was it that suggested that? That's Zed. Zed will be taking over the show next week, and I'll be liquidating all of my assets and moving to probably somewhere more affordable. I don't know. Or I could get like a cheap place on the beach in Hawaii, just rent a room from somebody or something. I think I'm going to do that at this point. Dude, you're right. It actually does. I don't know why I didn't notice that back when I got it, but I never did. I think I saw the coax. It's kind of hard to see, and I don't see so good, and that's going to be my excuse. I think I just saw the coax out and went, okay, I have to use this, but all right, you're right. All right, well, I'll try and do that this week. I'll plug in the Toslink and see if it'll work. I think I busted the Toslink cable, though. I think that's what happened. And to be honest, okay, so you're right. I spent that $12 years ago and used the 2 cables, and I didn't have to do that. But the reality is I've been using it digitally for 4 years, and I could not figure out a way to get it to work this week. So now I'm just running analog. One more damn thing to worry about. Look, I got a lot to worry about around here. I write the songs, and I mix them, and then I got to do video editing and, I don't know, go to the post office and mail pedals back and do things like that. Fareed says, are you planning to celebrate 150 shows? I'm just going to move on because I feel really stupid right now. So give me some slack and let's just move on. Thanks for that. I appreciate you putting me in my place. I really do. It's a hard lesson, but guys, you see it. This is a live show. You know, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. Fareed says, are you planning to celebrate 150 shows? Sorry, I've covered already. I hadn't thought about it. Next Sunday will be 150. What day will that be? I guess it's the 27th or 28th next week. I don't know. What should I do? Get myself a like a cupcake or something with a candle? Maybe. Why not? Okay. Toslink is optical, says L. Scott. Would you guys stop telling me what I'm doing wrong? Lauren, just stop. I thought optical is the optical is like the RCA style Spitif one. That's what I thought. Isn't that the optical output? I don't care. Here's the thing. I don't want to know about any of this stuff. I just want to plug in and write songs and play rock guitar. I don't want to know anymore. I don't want to know. You know what? I'm reserving the right to not know anymore. I'm going to be a grumpy old guy that doesn't want to learn about anymore. Showing your humanity, says Preston Smith. I like that word. Humanity over, idiocracy. Pete, come to Texas. We would be proud to have you take up residence here. That's Alan. I could live in Austin. I like that place. It's funky and cool. Pete is so off his footing, says BC Rich. No, I just feel a little stupid, But I don't mind when people, I'm a man of science. And my favorite book of all time, Carl Sagan's The Demon Haunted World. It's fantastic. It's all about looking for the truth, finding the truth through empirical evidence and research and figuring out that truth and coming up with, this is the truth, but then always being prepared just to be proved wrong. So, can you play Tie Your Mother Down? I can. I'm not gonna, but you're on fire today, buddy. Probably it's the crappy coffee. Optical and RCA style are both digital, but not the same. I had to find that out recently as well, says Arthur. See, this is the thing when it gets to, okay, I started off the show for those that had joined recently by saying that I was experimenting with the new quad Cortex modeler. And sorry for those that have been here the whole time, but I'm just going to sum it up to say the thing that I liked about it is that there's not this crazy learning curve, because I almost didn't have to crack a manual or look at anything. I could figure it all out by just kind of like moving it, because it's got this touch screen and it prompts you to show you how to do things. So if you're doing the capture thing, which is their version of Kemper's profiling and capturing a sound into it, right? First of all, it worked really well and I was very impressed with it. But second of all, it shows you how to do it. So it prompts you on the screen, plug this in here. Now plug the output of your microphone or mic pre in here. Now do this. And so, in a Kemper, when I'd go to make a profile, it's in a rag on Kemper, what it was an incredible device for the time, and still is. But I'd always have to go in the manual to figure out what the connections were to plug it in and stuff. This thing walks you through the steps on the touchscreen. Okay, you want to make a new capture. Okay, first off, plug this in here, and it highlights on a little picture on the screen. Like, next off, next, plug this in here. In 3 minutes, you're set up because you just got prompted by a virtual manual, and it doesn't even feel like you had to open a manual. It's more like, oh, you want to do it? Okay, follow this step, this step, this step, this step, test the audio, let's go. And I loved that about it. It just felt like, yes, this is the way that these guitar processors, we don't as guitar players want to do the, menu pages, deep things of having it whatever, and I don't even want to know what optical is, to be honest, compared to RCA or whatever. This is stuff that I have to know in order to record and stuff. So the fact that whatever, I honestly didn't realize that the aux had that output on it, but because I didn't see it under there, because I see like shit, and I'm also just I rush through things. But the fact that I got it to work and it worked and it showed up, I never thought about it for the next 4 years. Oh, okay, plug in this cable here, plug it in. It shows up on 910. Oh, it's working. Okay, let's write a song. I don't want to know about all this stuff. So, okay. What else? Definitely made for stoners. Excellent, says Buzz Crumbler. Yeah, it's made for guitar players, just people that don't want to. Yeah, 4 cable methods. 4 cable methods spelled out, says Hired Grunage. Yeah, exactly. Like, imagine if, you want to hook up this box 4 cable? Okay, step 1, plug in here. Step 2, and every time you hooked it up that way, you could it would prompt you on the screen, And that's exactly what it did. And it was really cool, I thought, that it had that feature. So, Chi-Town Cat says, you just made me feel better. I love my analog pedals and 1/4-inch cables. Dude, I just, it's part of my job that I get to check out all this stuff and do different things. But the constant learning curve makes, I split it up in here when I'm making videos for things. I can't always do a new model or something because there is more of a learning curve always. Sometimes here's a pedal from Crazy Tube Circuits. It's like, okay, I can't do another. I'll do one, and then it'll be like, I can't do that right now. I'm going to plug this in, which is a, I believe like a kind of maybe a harmonic style trem and a boost. I think it's harmonic. Let's just do that right now because I can plug that. I don't need to learn anything for a minute, and get in the creative headspace and just do stuff. Because constantly learning all the time some new thing that a designer came up with. It's not even like learning a language or something or learning something about music theory. It's like learning what some designer came up with and they've been thinking about for the last 3 years of designing some piece of gear. And they're like, oh, well, let's put this feature in. Let's put this feature in. Let's put this feature in. And so you got to get, I always say it's like getting in the designer's brain of like, oh, I can see where they were going with this and how they tried, and it's not always like the most logical or easy to do stuff. This is stuff that car companies and stuff put a lot of thought into, right? I mean, making things ergonomic and, like just simple, so that learning curve really it's tough for me to constantly be. I love doing this stuff and I love my job, but it hurts my old brain after a while sometimes. Jeff says, what do you think of the Wampler Brent Mason distortion pedal? I'm a drummer that plays a little guitar and keys. I tried it a few years ago. I don't really remember, to be honest, not fair enough to, I tried it because I was doing some stuff with Wampler back then. And Wampler pretty much across the board, I will say, makes great overdrive and distortion circuits. I mean, that Plexi drive I tried recently was a great JTM 45 meets kind of, Black Flag era 50 sound. The Pinnacle, great Van Halen style, high gain drive. They know what Brian's got good ears, I think, and he knows how to do good distortion pedals. Obviously, Brent Mason, the Paisley drive. I mean, he works with these guys a lot. I doubt that you're gonna, if it's Brent, it's probably gonna, obviously the Paisley drive or the Brent Mason one's gonna be a little more Nashville-y, little less aggressive, Marshall craziness, and probably a little smoother and a little more like edge of breakup and stuff. Probably like similar to something like you would get out of this guy, which is one of my favorite edge of breakup or lower gain, low to mid gain drives. But I'm guessing, I guess I should go soon. It's 1:45. I've been here for 2 hours and 15 minutes, so I should split. Odin Stan says he's got a small box pedal on order because of my demo. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Good pedal. Really good pedal. Brian is clearly passionate about his work. Brian's a good dude, he comes up with great pedals, and it's a good Wampler. It's good stuff. Good stuff. What do you hate about the Keurig, and what do you recommend, says Dave? For coffee, it just kind of tastes a little... I don't hate it. I think maybe I need to clean the one here or something. I think it was better when I got it, and it probably just run some cleaner through it, probably be better. But it's a little like, I like to grind beans fresh, and I became a snob a while ago, and I started getting into more like medium roast coffees that are, I like, when it's got that really rich taste but doesn't have any acidic or maybe it's not acidic. It's that aftertaste of a kind of shit cup of coffee drives me crazy. If it's burned at all these days, that drives me crazy. I love when it's just smooth. My friend John Button taught me, like, you don't have to put anything in it, or it should just taste like really smooth. And if you feel like you got to put sugar in it or whatever, it's so a little oat milk and just the coffee, if the coffee's good, it can be sweet enough on its own and taste delicious. So that's what I like, and you're not going to get that out of the Keurig. I don't think. You're always going to have to throw something in there. So fresh brown coffee beans are great, says Richard. I agree. I hate buying ground coffee from the grocery store and even sitting for a couple days. I feel like as soon as you grind it, it starts to go bad. Not go bad, but it just, after 3 days, it doesn't taste as fresh or as good anymore. Oat milk, says Rodney. I love oat milk. Oat milk it's my favorite kind of milk for coffee. The best, it's so good. I don't know. It's just delicious. And actually, like anything, like, you can have a bowl of cereal, throw some oat milk in there. It's delicious. I prefer it. Try Death Wish coffee, says Michael. I should give that a try. I have not. SD's up there in the super chat. He says, can you recommend a good acoustic guitar with built-in pickup for under $1,000? I mean, Takamine honestly are great working guitars for, the preamps are solid. I love my Takamine. So look at what they've got. I'm sure they've got something good for under $1,000. I think they're just terrific working guitars. Taylor is great, and they've probably got in the 300 series. I don't know how much they are exactly, but Taylor to me is like in many ways is like the Sir, although they probably got lower price guitars than Sir does, but the Sir of acoustic guitars. I went to their factory once, and that's how it struck me. I got a tour of the factory, and they're just very forward thinking. Everything's really, they're like a modern guitar company that's making great guitars that is doing it in the USA. So I would look at lower price Taylors and Takamines. And I've never played. The other thing I learned about Taylors on the road, I was doing some touring with an artist once, and with Colby Calais, and just kind of pop artist, and we would go do a lot of these acoustic shows and radio station things and stuff. And I would just rent guitars because I got this thing where I just didn't want to carry a guitar, and it was be like, what, it's pretty simple music, and stuff. And I thought, I don't need to bring the greatest acoustic guitar in the world. I just need a good, solid working guitar. So I started backlining guitars, and I learned quickly that Taylors, if a Taylor showed up from a rental company, it would at least be good, and good all the way to, this is really nice. And I got a couple. I remember backlining guitars once even for a Don Henley gig that was a one-off. And I got a 12-string, and that's when I ordered a 12-string from Taylor, because I thought this is one of the most beautiful 12 strings I've ever played. And I got inspired and hooked up with the artist guy there, and he got me, a 12-string from them. It's just the greatest 12 that I'll ever. I just don't need another 12-string. It's an amazing guitar. So, yeah. Peter Evans says, hey, Pete, great show. Something for the chair or the coffee fund. That's right. I still need a good chair. poor posture right now. I'm screwing up my lower back. Thank you, Peter. Thanks for doing the super duper chat. All right, a couple more questions on a split. Is Q Boost as good as they're saying, says Lucas. That pedal's amazing, yeah. Fuzz in it. It's a really cool sounding fuzz, as well as if you watch my friend Kifro, he did a video, I think it's on Instagram, with it playing what Pink Floyd. It's a Pink Floyd song. I can't remember which one right now, but and it sounded great. And he's just using the fuzz circuit in it, so he's showing that off maybe a little more than even I did in my video and that in his video. But great fuzz, and then the Q thing is incredible. You know, just aggressive and so cool. Moving to the bottom of the chat. My niece Hurt says my dad is a Taylor fanboy. Great guitars. I mean, there's just good tools, you know. Else got music. Lauren, he says Taylor's are very reliable. I agree. Yep. Good, reliable, solid guitars, you know, that sound great, play great. I burped. Excuse me. I burped again. Renan says, when you're using plexi-style amps, how do you use drive pedals? Gain structure-wise, what is the thought process? For me, if I'm playing a plexi-style amp, if I'm not doing the Van Halen thing and turning it on 10, you know, doing everything else you would do with it, you crank it up to 6 or 7 and get that great rock crunch. Turn up the mids about 3/4 of the way, put the treble and the presence and the bass around 5, and then tweak the taste, you know. And then hit it with a Klon, a Tube Screamer, an SD1. That's how I do it. And, you know, using the pedal with the level up and the drive just up a little to get a great high gain lead sound. So that's how I do it. Brooks is up there in the super chat. He says, Pete, the classic rock show rundown. I noticed you had on that video, I guess you're saying, I had an HX stomp on the left side of your board. Curious what you're using it for. It was my backup. So I had 2 sounds, a clean and a dirty, I think, that I put in the HX stomp that were like a dirty rhythm, rock and roll tone. I think I just had 3. I might have put a lead in there too. Like, you know, rhythm, lead, dirty sounds, and then a clean sound. And so if all went to hell, like my rig or my pedal board or something died, I could just plug a guitar cable right into the HX and it would go into my in-ears and out to front of house, and I would have a guitar sound. And it's a great little box, man. I mean, the HX is like talk about a jack of all trades. It does anything. Literally anything. Host IRs, amp sim, any effect under the sun. You know, if you just need you need a box that'll do anything, it'll do it. What about a Gibson 1969 Gold Top Deluxe? Cool guitars. Always wanted to like them and get one maybe someday. And even the late 60s, you know, when I got I used to have a 54 Les Paul. Todd Roy's leaving. Bye, Todd. When I had my 54 Les Paul, originally I was looking for a 68 Gold Top because I thought they were kind of affordable back then. This was in the 90s. And instead I found a refinned with a headstock repair 54 that I got, and I loved that guitar, and it was my number one gear. Regret selling it. I've brought that up before, but anyways, in that period, I mean, I've tried a couple late 60s ones, like a 68 that I tried in Japan that looked unbelievable. Like the aging, the greening on the top was incredible, and it was kind of, I could have afforded it at the time, but it was heavy, really heavy, and I was just like, oh, I can't get my head around this. I've just never played. I like customs a 68 or 69, those black customs from that era. Tim Pierce has one that John Shanks sold him, I think. That's a 69. That's great. Those are cool. But Deluxe, I don't know. I just not my thing, I guess. It's never really been my thing. Did I miss somebody in the top chat? No, I don't think so. I think I got everybody. Well, I guess I should wrap it up. I don't want to go. I'm having fun, but I should just split and let you guys get on with your day. And I need to actually make a video for this this Bose, so I need to get on that. I think I'm going to do like a thing. Tell me what you guys think. I'm going to do a thing where it's not stereo, you know, it's mono. So I thought what I would do is record an acoustic guitar part through it and try and find a good position here in my room. Maybe use my Earthworks mic, which is really, really transparent, 20 to 20K. And I'll just find a nice position in the room for the mic, record an acoustic guitar, then I'll record an electric guitar. I'll maybe even do a drum loop through it, because you can play drums through it, you know, and like a you know, Bluetooth out of your phone and play a track through it. And I'll just record everything, and then I'll kind of pan it out like you would a band, you know. That'll be my demo of it, I think. And you know, and because I think the idea with these is you'd have each performer with their own, or maybe two into one, and then another one, you know. That was kind of the original thinking with this design, was rather than a traditional PA and monitor system for smaller gigs, or, you know, everybody could have their own sort of thing, and it would disperse through the room and be a kind of, if you set them at the right level, it would be a kind of natural sound. So that's what I'm going to try and do in the video. Try and somehow, it's a difficult thing to do full range anything in a video, in a demonstration video. So I'm going to take it on, as I did with the Headrush video I made recently for their speakers, and try and show it. So can you do a video with the Jackson guitar? I should do a just my favorite guitars video, I guess, because I did, like, you know, like that video I put on my 335 and just show that guitar kind of across the board, you know. I've got pictures with it and stuff. There's a photo of me in my high school yearbook playing that guitar at a lunchtime thing where we played, I think we played YYZ, Satch Boogie, and some other song. 3 songs at lunch in my high school auditorium. And I'm playing that guitar, and there's a photo of me actually with a mullet and the whole 9 yards. DW says, can you play the drums? I'm terrible, man. I'm a terrible drummer. I can't. I'd love to, but I have, the worst part for me is my foot. My right foot is just spastic. I have trouble with kick drum. I'd have to practice. I know I could do it if I practice, but, you know. Have you played through any diesel amps? Only a little bit. Not that much, just a little bit. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, have a great week, and thanks for setting me straight on my aux. Forgetting the Zoe that helped me out with that. I'm so stupid. I'm gonna try that actually. I'm gonna hook the Toslink cable up and see if it works, but I don't know why it wasn't working. Anyways, try that right now. Why not? See you guys, and I'll see you next Sunday. Have a great week. Rock and roll.